Break. So glad you guys tuned in. Showing the smile there, Adrian.
Oh, yeah.
Right on. Got Kerry Ryan with us here today.
Hi.
A lot of you guys in town know Kerry. If you've been to his rock wall or maybe rented one of his bicycles or purchased one of his bicycles. So is a bicycle the right word to use, or is it bike?
All of it.
All of it. And two
Bikes,
wheels?
cycles, bicycles, velos, beachies, all of them.
All of them. Well, that's a technical. I lose it after just bike.
There you go.
Gosh.
You know.
There's like 100 different styles now, too.
Isn't that great, though? What a business it is. So we are so glad that you tuned in today. We're so glad that you made this opportunity. So we're getting ready. I'm looking at our one of our producers, Mike Harvey. We're getting ready to get 700 organic likes on our Facebook page. So keep it up for us. We're not proud to ask for the likes and the shares. So hope you enjoy the show. Want to give a shout out to our team. Want to shout out to our creator, Josh Vietti, Encourage Media. Want to shout out to Vince Sierra. And then I'll also give a special shout out to Seth Parker today. Seth's out there quarantining. Hope your mom's doing well. I know you are. Kerry, Seth wanted me to make the comment that he's purchased over $10,000 worth of bikes from you. So
Loyalty is why we're in business.
I know. I like it. I don't know if you're looking for a discount or something, Seth. You should have been here today if you're looking for a discount. I'm teasing.
Oh,
If you're
man.
quarantining, we want you to stay at home. So our on-site producer, Mike Harvey, we have a guest there. Mike, can you show our guest tech person today? It's Nathaniel Tweed, none other than Nathaniel Tweed. Look at there.
Say hi, Nate.
Yeah. Nathaniel Tweed. We're glad you came in and helped us. I think you already showed Mike a thing or two, didn't you?
Not sure yet. Maybe later.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know. We'll see what goes on.
Hey, he got the audio all dialed in.
I like it. You got to have the tech team. They've saved us more than once, Adrian. So I want to thank our creative consultants, Tessa and Taylor Touchstone. They're always adding value. They just mentioned last week, Adrian, you got to look at the camera more.
I'm looking at the camera.
know.
It's right there.
I know. They're always honest about
I'm
making
trying
sure
to-
we look good, Kerry.
Very good.
You know, and they're gals, Taylor and Tessa Touchstone. I want to thank him. My co-host today is Adrian Monhay.
Hey, guys.
Yes, yeah, he's been a guest and he's been a co-host, been a guest twice.
Yeah, guest twice, co-host once, so this is the second time I've been the co-host.
Last night I did services at the church and Adrian was on stage with me, huh?
Yeah,
And he
definitely.
talked about it.
was
So,
fun.
hey, watch that out at vbf.org. You can see that. Season 2, Lunch Break 2.0. We're going to be having guest hosts. They're going to be joining us and with guests. So what's the experience like, Adrian?
I think it's unique to hear the stories, like
Yes.
how the stories come out, how it unfolds. It never comes out how you think it is. You think you know somebody. Like, I'm very curious what's going to happen today,
Yeah.
because I'm sure I'm going to learn all kinds of new things about Kerry today.
Well, it's funny.
I don't know. I talk a lot.
Well, it's funny because I've known Kerry. I think maybe I'd known you when you were probably 7 or 8 years old.
That's possible. In
You
fact,
had hair.
down the hill from Norm. Correct.
From Norm Hoffman, my friend.
Wow.
And the first time I ever met Kerry was skateboarding. He was. I mean, he was on a piece of wood with wheels on it.
That's what it was back then. Clay wheels that threw you over if you hit a pebble.
I think it could be a piece of sand.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
It wasn't much.
So I can tell you right now, I'm shocked.
Are you?
I did not know Kerry rode a skateboard ever.
Well,
So that's
everything.
awesome.
I
Yeah.
tried everything.
It was fun. We'll get into the show and talk a little more about that because I could get out of hand why I was over there.
Yeah.
But as we're going through this with our guest in our show, usually we had Steve Southers. Hope you're watching out there, Steve. He owns Sportslanders West. It's a sports nutrition store, and he was a great guest last week. But our question that came in from our audience, the question that came in last week was, what is something I can do that doesn't require me being an expert? So what it is Steve was talking about nutritional supplements for people at all levels, working out for people at all levels. And so I can jump in for that right now.
Yeah.
I always tell people if they're going to start a workout and they're talking about diet, to do one or the other first. Don't do a workout and a diet at the same time. That sets you up for failure. It's too much. You know, it just really is. I always tell people you could start working out, just doing a moderate workout. You could do it at home with just push-ups, freestanding squats, just anything like that. But if you start out with a workout, add a diet in about 6-8 weeks, because working out will beget eating good. And then I tell them, but if you don't want to do that first, start eating well. If you eat 3 cheeseburgers a day, eat 2. That's a diet.
Good cutback.
It is. It's you're just minimizing your calorie intake. So if you want to start a diet, and that's base where you could start, that if you start a diet for 6 to 8 weeks, then working out will be something. One will beget the other. Does that make sense? If you try to do both, usually you set yourself up for failure.
And Kerry, before you put in all your input, we've got like a real beginner here, like a real serious
beginner what?
beginner cyclist. And he wants to start something new,
Well,
Mike,
Mike,
are you listening?
so
I'm
you're-
listening, man.
So you're
Yeah.
calling Mike
I'm
out?
calling Mike out
So-
because
so
Mike
he-
made a statement before the show, which Kerry, you will totally get this as a cyclist. You know what he said? He said, I could train for a little bit and ride with you.
Oh, it's a.
Well, I didn't say a little bit.
it's a
I'm sorry.
Mike,
What was that?
You did. I mentioned that you're a baby bike rider. Is that
Oh,
is
my
that
goodness.
is that a fair statement, Kerry?
well, that's a new rider is always a baby bike rider.
Is it really?
No,
I thought you were just
I was just
going.
playing it.
Oh,
Now I
gosh.
feel like a baby.
So is this like a call down or a?
Well, I'm just saying, he wants to start, Kerry.
Well,
If he wants to ride with me, which
In a
he
little bit
believes
of a
he
decade,
can.
you could ride with 8.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't know, man. I got some stamina.
No, you could in a year's time, if you dedicate yourself, you could ride with a really good rider, no question.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, see, Kerry just said what I said when I talked to you earlier.
Kerry doesn't
You
know
didn't say-
everything about Mike Harvey.
Yeah, so it could be less than a year.
Maybe.
I feel that the throwdown is
Oh,
happening.
you just trying to make yourself feel better, Adrian?
I am definitely.
Oh, yeah, that's
definitely.
funny. That's
Kerry
funny.
said a year. I'm thinking 10, but
All right, let's start.
So we're gonna reel the show back in.
All right.
Thank you, guys. So, Kerry, what would you throw in there if we have maybe a beginner to a moderate bike rider?
Well, if somebody was a beginner, I typically would say go to a bike path in your neighborhood or somewhere where you know traffic isn't going to bother you. Get comfortable on the bike, and then you will have success. If you're worried about traffic and other elements and you're not focused, you're not going to have a good time. But when you get on a path and there's no traffic to worry about, your mind can actually wander. You can enjoy scenery, birds, nature, flowers, things like that. And without that, it's not as much fun. So once you get comfortable on the bike, though, then you can ride with traffic and enjoy the same things.
I love that. Great advice for somebody there. I would never thought about that, because that would be a reason why I would go out to ride a bike. I remember people always ask me the question, what do we do for cardio? People assume cardio is always bike riding or something. What do we do for cardio back in the Stone Ages when I worked out? Wow. And I go, well, they didn't really have stationary bikes. If you wanted to ride a bike, you had to go someplace.
Yep.
And that would be half the fun. But that means I'd have to leave the gym and ride someplace. So I didn't do that back then. But that makes perfect sense.
Correct. In fact, our good friend Norm Hoffman always said, "Did you see the flowers today?" And he's at 190 heart rate,
Yeah.
dying to stay behind him, and he's riding really hard. But he'd always say, "Did you see the flowers?" So he enjoyed every ride with traffic at any heart rate at any level.
I love that.
And I think that brings up a good point about it too. When you first start off, like go with somebody. Don't
Yeah.
just go out there by yourself.
It's a great-
Once you get used to it, get a buddy, get a riding buddy. I had Marco Martinez was the guy from Snyder's, and he just like rode with me every weekend. I would always forget water. I'd always forget an extra tube. I was a rookie, but riding with another person definitely helps. And even when you go to the next level, like riding with Kerry, I got to ride with Kerry one time, and I
Did
realized.
you see the back of him going?
Yeah, I was like, okay, I need to like step up my levels.
No, he rode really well. In fact, I remember the day that we did the time trialing together.
Yeah.
No, he tried time trialing, and I said, "Hey, I can give you some tips, and you can go a lot faster." And he picked it up so fast. It was really fun.
I like it. There are some naturals that do that. Is you see them when they just are able to like pick it up. And I'm not trying to start something with Mike because he wants to jump in right now. I know Mike. So I like that. So there you go. Hopefully that helped you guys. There again, if you have any questions this week, you could write in and we can ask our guests next week and that kind of thing. So, Adrian, you got a guest host responsibility.
Oh, yeah. So we always ask this one question. We didn't even tell Kerry this time that we were going to ask him the question.
I did.
So, you did?
I did.
Oh.
He didn't say what the question was.
What we do is we never look for the answer. We tell people that we're going to ask
Okay.
good questions. So.
I was going to surprise you, Kerry.
Oh,
So,
okay.
what's
Act surprised, Kerry.
Act surprised. What's something that nobody knows about you? Something that would be new to the
Could be
whole-
quirky. Could, I dropped the fact that I play the violin. As a computer programmer, things like that. So just
Well,
Yeah.
I think on the sports side, believe it or not, I love badminton, squash, bowling, obscure sports.
Oh really?
Yeah, things like that. And then on the
Did you just say badminton?
badminton, not badminton, but it was close.
Badminton.
Anyway,
No,
Is that the feathers that
Yeah, it
you
is.
hit?
Yeah, it is.
Bird.
It's a bird.
Badminton. I was thinking badmintons.
Badminton.
they don't play badminton in Wimbledon.
Wimbledon.
But my lisp will start coming out.
Anyway, and then on the other side, I played music growing up. So my mom was a piano teacher.
I remember.
And so you had to learn piano, you had to learn something. So I went from piano to drums. And then at 18, I went back from drums to piano. And then I still play for my own enjoyment, but not for crowds.
You know what's interesting? I think a lot of people that we've had on the show that talk about knowing an instrument wish they kept their skill. I don't. I mean, I used to be able to read music, and I haven't done it. So it's kind of cool that you do that.
You can still do it. That's your new challenge.
You know what's
They're challenging Tom.
you know what it is?
Learn to read music again, Tom.
It's an investment in time, and I think the older I get, I'm realizing I may have less time to take to do some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I may not. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So did you ever play in a band?
So I played union musician as a union musician for probably
So you made money at this.
12 years. Yeah. Yeah, but I wasn't any good, but the people I played with were great.
They paid you
So
though, right?
align yourself well. Now, also, the reason I got jobs is because I carried all of the equipment in. So I was like the roadie that also played drums.
So they didn't have to pay the guy to
Right.
move the drums in. They just played
I
the drum
moved
player.
the drums in. I'd carry the amps for the guitar players. I'd carry the stuff for the piano player. I'd carry anything
Yeah.
as long as I got the job.
You know, it's so funny because today in our audience we have a man that told his son when he was 14 or 15 that he couldn't make a living at playing a guitar. And that's Phil Welch when he talked to his son Brian Welch, which was in the band.
Just a
Corn.
big band. Yeah.
I'm
Just a
looking
little
I'm
bad for
looking
Bakersfield.
I'm looking over Adrian's left shoulder because Phil's out there, but I remember Phil shared that at a Bible study one time. Because I'm the guy that went into my son who's playing guitar, and I looked at him and said,
Never make a
son,
living.
you're not going to be able to make a living at this, so you're going to need to pick up a career. But I think that's 1 in a million. I don't know if a whole lot
That
of people.
happens a lot.
Yeah, does it?
It really does. There are
Yeah.
so many great musicians that have been, they call them naysayers. People say, no, you can never do that.
Oh,
You'll
I
never
know.
do it." Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you're talking about a guy that came into and people ask me how I started making a living at bodybuilding. I go, just fell into it. Arnold paved the way.
That's true.
We made money at. So I love it. Kerry, you're a pleasure to be here. Kerry, as we go through here, Adrian and I were talking about it. Kerry asked us a question like a lot of our guests ask, what's the show about? And I go, about you. It's really about the life, and because a lot of people, get to see your store as they drive by and that kind of stuff. But start out with the young Kerry.
Well, my parents moved to Bakersfield when I was 1. So I was one of 5 kids, and my brother Mike was in 10 years behind my youngest sister. So then became a family of 6 kids. We were Irish Catholic. We went to Nichols, then Chipman, then Highland, then BC, then I went to San Diego State, and then finished at Cal State again. So that was my scholastic upbringing. And then as a kid, though, I probably just, like everybody else, rode my bike for transportation. I ended up playing golf at about age 11 to 12, then played golf competitively through age 21.
Oh, wow.
And then broke both arms and wrists in a motorcycle wreck. So that was the end of the golf career.
Did you buy that motorcycle from your brother?
No, it was a customer's bike. I was working on the customer's bike, and I took it for a test ride and broke the bike into a car.
Oh.
Yeah. So the car pulled in front of me, but either way, I broke both arms. So that was the end of golf. So really, my childhood was just fun. I did a lot of sports. We just had a lot of good friends in the neighborhood. Back then, it was just neighborhood kids.
Yes.
A lot of fun.
And you had an athletic family, too.
Very athletic family. So I always said, people think, oh, you're a good athlete. I said, oh, you haven't met my family. I'm nothing.
I don't want to go there too soon, but, man, They should see your sister.
Right. Now, what you see, so we always talk about Mary because Mary's, it's obvious when you see the pictures. And then we talk about my sister Jenny, who's a school teacher, been a principal, gone back to teaching, things like that. But Jenny was by far the best athlete in the family. So Tim was good at gymnastics. My brother Pat was all into motorcycle racing. But Jenny was the best athlete of all of us. And then my younger brother Michael is very versatile at everything from rollerblading, bicycling, skateboarding, skiing, snowboarding, everything. So, but we are all fairly competitive with each other. So we all had to outdo each other.
Yeah. I remember that. And I know we're going to go into a little more family a little bit later, but I remember when you opened your first shop because it was over there where the bike path is, and you made an impact. But I know people can go by now and get the wrong impression that you got this nice building and this place, but it didn't start that way, did it?
Oh heck no. So I started working for a place in Bakersfield called Sports Circus right in high school.
I remember Sports Circus.
So then I went back there after graduating from college and kind of became their manager. So I learned how to do the business, and then in '88 I opened my own store, and we opened it on $55,000 total. So that was for everything. That's carpet, paint, cash registers, hangers, racks, mirrors, dressing rooms, office, one computer, or not even computer, cash register. So $55,000 was including inventory.
That doesn't include the fish tank.
No, and that was the fish tank was the second store. So, but the first store was a shoestring, and it went really well. Obviously, the people were loyal to me from the Sports Circus crowd, followed me to my new store. So it was instantly successful, and I hit the Rollerblade Craze. So in 1988, Rollerblade had been launched, and I became Rollerblade's biggest dealer on the West Coast, including, this is San Diego, LA,
In Bakersfield.
San Francisco. We outsold everybody.
Wow.
So in Bakersfield, I created this thing, this huge phenomena that everybody sunk into. It got into it.
Well, I remember sometimes people couldn't rent rollerblades because you were out like a Saturday. You would be all rented out like early in the morning.
So we started with the fleet of 12 rentals, and then we got to 36 rentals, and we got to about 100 pair of rentals. But people were just buying these things at $189 like it was a pair of tennis shoes. They're just put them on, lace them up, and buy them. So our store got funded by Rollerblade, truly. So that gave me the money to keep pursuing more and more bikes and more sports. So we did snow ski, snowboard. We did.
I remember that too.
We did the swim department for the competitive swimmers like Speedo, Arena, and Tier, and then
triathletes.
So we did everything from then running shoes. We just kind of became everything but balls. So no football, no baseball, no basketball, no soccer, but we just did like people sports, not team sports.
Was that by design?
It kind of became that way because I think I grew up always being small, and I still am small, other than my belly.
I think that would be short in stature.
There we go.
Yeah.
So I think that because the team sports really were predicated on being big and strong, and I really wasn't. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just do sports that I like. Here we go. Hence badminton, squash, bowling, every weird sport. I became like, I can do this. And then tennis was fun, and golf was a natural for me. So then cycling, I rode my bike to the golf course every day to get to the golf course. So that bike became my mainstay. And then when I finally got a good bike, I had already been trained for years, and I didn't know it. And nobody else knew it.
Yeah.
So I got on a bike, and I was instantly fairly successful. So,
especially when you probably had just a normal bike, and then you went to a real bike.
Right. I had a Montgomery Ward's bike with a hard plastic seat.
And commuters make good cyclists. Like there's some commuters in Bakersfield. They commute everywhere, and then you take them on like a 100-mile ride, and they're doing fine.
Yeah.
Because they ride 200 miles a week.
They're in better shape than a lot of people.
When I hear 100-mile ride, my mind goes. I think
it's all about nutrition.
It is, but I'm just saying.
No cheese.
I just know that you have to get there, and you're probably, like you said, counting every mile. If I get a car and drive for 100 miles, I'm like, oh my gosh, when am I going to get there?
Yeah.
And that just doesn't happen.
And I'll tell you, if you are going to do a 100-mile ride, you want to hear that from the bike shop owner. Yeah, it's all about nutrition when you're 300 pounds and try to do 100 miles, because I've seen him do it. I've seen Kerry take somebody who's maybe ridden 1,000 miles in a year, and they want to do this 8-hour ride, and Kerry makes their formula, all their drinks, everything, and they finish the ride.
Kerry, is You know, I know you have the business side. Everybody that came in here talked about buying a bike from you. That's what I like about you, Kerry, is like you're so community oriented, and people are like, oh my gosh, that really affected my life.
Thank you.
Do you have those stories that you can remember like that, where I remember helping competitive athletes, and it may be an NFL player or a hockey player or something. That was, and they get a little bit better. That's like not a big deal. But you take a sedentary person,
Yeah.
and they lose 100 pounds. They ride, they could ride for 100 miles, something like that. It gives you kind of a self-satisfaction. Like, man, I helped them do that.
It's my favorite thing is I don't know the word no. I always say this is how. So when somebody says, "Oh, you don't have a bike strong enough for me, do you?" And I said, "Absolutely." And they say, "Oh, I probably can't ride more than." I said, "No, you can." And so I'm always the yes, you can. I learned this from Norm, by the way.
Really?
So you always want to motivate
Norman.
everybody to believe in themselves and say, yes, you can. And there's no answer you're going to get from me. So I'm going to always say, this is how. And so when you want to do a century ride, if you're not in shape, you have to stop every 10 miles and stretch and eat, monitor yourself, and go do it again. But that's the way to finish a century ride when you're not in shape. And just like that, if you,
Then it just times your factor.
but I used to have a club of people, and this, I hope this doesn't sound wrong, but I had a number of people that were pretty overweight. And I used to say, hey, how much do you want to lose? What's your goal? And they'd say, oh, it's 100 pounds. It's a magic number, just like you said. So I was up to about 16 people, and I just stopped counting because they would all tell their friends, hey, I got a bike from Kerry. Go down there. He'll tell you how to do it. And we build these special bikes, special seats, and make them comfortable on the bike. That's the main thing. If you're comfortable on a bike, you will ride it more.
That's true.
If the bike hurts, you will not ride it. So my goal was just...
Because you're dealing with sensitive areas.
Right. And then we talk about the nutrition. So even though you think, oh, I don't need to eat because I'm so big, you need to eat more. You're really the self-fulfilled prophecy. If you eat well, you will ride well. So
Yes.
we just really incentivize a lot of people in town to ride and achieve their goals, ride a century ride or lose 100 pounds. It's the 100 thing's an amazing thing. Is they want to ride 100 miles or lose 100 pounds. But either way, everybody succeeds.
That's
And I think that's the value, because it's all about giving back, right?
Well, I think so.
And helping other people as you go about it. I love it because you were talking about that you have a good stock of bikes right now.
We're doing
In
very well.
your story. I think we got a picture. Have we been bringing pictures up, guys? I think we have a picture of Kerry overlooking.
the bike shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Is
there.
that where your bikes are for sale, or?
Yeah, so we're on us. My mezzanine has a bike spin studio upstairs, which is also full of bikes right now. But
Yes.
below that, there's about 1,000 bikes on the floor right there behind me, and we have that many bikes currently. So we got ahead of the COVID, shortage of supply and the freight. supply.
Yours aren't out there floating in the ocean.
Yeah, mine
off
are
the coast
in
of.
stock. So I'm doing well. If anybody needs a bike, we are in good supply.
I love it, Kerry. I love it. And then the next one, a lot of people have seen it, but I think the people that are with you are pretty successful, right?
Oh, yeah. So in that picture, you see Sam Ames and Jerry Campbell. Jerry's been with me over 32 years. Sam has been with me 3 times now. So he started with me in 88, and he's back as our GM and my partner in the business he started 2 years ago again. And I said, hey, you're taking this over. This store's never going to go away. I want you to be the guy.
Yeah.
So Sam is a local
Sam's
racer,
awesome.
puts on great promotions, great races. He has a great reputation in town, so I'm really fortunate to have him.
And we're hunting for him. We're going to get him on the show.
Yeah.
Sam, I know you're watching.
Hey, I love that. Kerry, because that says a lot about you when you have longtime employees.
Well, I hope it does.
It does. No, it does. It does. I mean, I've had 3 professions, and when you hear people that have been around for those many years, it means something that people enjoy working with you in your company.
I always say it's a trickle-down theory. If I'm in a bad mood, they're in a bad mood. So I have to go in and paint the face no matter how I feel, and I have to be the cheerleader. But, if you create a good environment, nobody will leave your store.
That's true.
You create a fun environment, the customers want to be part of the experience too. When you can make a customer laugh, they'll never shop anywhere else. So I think humor and sincerity and building this trust and your personality, that you actually care to listen to them, talk to them, laugh with them. It's not just about selling a bike.
Well, Kerry, I can say this because sometimes I know you, but on the outside looking in, what I hear from people in town is always good stuff because you're committed to the community. You're community minded. People always do that. And so as you're being part of the community and community minded, people, they support that. if you're out there in
Correct.
business, I mean, Kerry would be a person I'd want to talk to about having a local business that's bringing in local people, and they're not going to go to the big box. I think that's something that a lot of people say. We lose out to the big box, but I don't think that's true if you really truly care about that customer.
Well, we used to compete. I always was worried about the big boxes taking over my store. So I opened my big store in 2007. At the same time, Dick's opened at 50,000 feet. Sports Chalet opened at 50,000 feet. Sports Authority took over Copeland's at 50,000 feet. So
They're
I had
all
three
selling bikes.
all at the same time. And I was like, how am I going to compete against this? But Sam was really good. He says, keep your head down. Do what you're doing. People love
Yes,
you. You'll.
They do.
And the loyalty will, pay itself back. So,
That's a good word, loyalty.
Yeah.
Loyalty,
we've had a lot of fun.
Loyalty from you, the owner, the community rider, the supporter, the helper, and then the community supports you by coming in.
And I think, too, all the people that he has helped out in the community, too.
Yes.
That has been a big role of the success of the shop, too,
Well,
because you've reached out to racers, not only cyclists, runners, triathletes. I mean, you name it. Kerry's been on that. If it's a long distance, he's had something to do with it.
Well, there's one thing I want to say about Adrian. So Adrian got into promoting his own time trials for the crowds because there weren't any time trials. This is where you race the clock. You don't race in a peloton. You just race one person at a time. They go off every 15 seconds. So Adrian learned how to put on all these races. And what happens is everybody can go compete. Say Tom's going to go do 30 minutes, and Mike Harvey is going to go out and do 29.
It's going to take him an hour.
And then what'll happen
1
is
hour.
Tom Touchdown is going to go train really hard for the next 2 weeks till Adrian's next race. So these races become the goal for everybody. So I used to put on volleyball tournaments. I put on the big Kern Bakersfield Triathlon now for 30 plus years. I put on so many different events, but it gives people a goal and a way to stay active. And if you don't have a reason to stay active, you won't train hard.
Yes.
But if it becomes a challenge between Tom and Mike, then we're going to talk about
It's even better.
you're going to train. You're going to train more because
You
if
are?
he beats
We're
you,
all
you're
competitors.
not going to let it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But
that's,
Adrian's learning that too. So
yeah, and that's definitely what's happened at the community events that Kerry supports. It happens that way. Somebody shows up and they beat you by 10 seconds, and the next event,
The competitive juices are
it's
rolling.
just roaring. Yeah,
And like, I'm going to get a C train and right,
right in the dark.
See me.
well, even at our triathlon, we put on a sprint division, and then we had a mini sprint. So anybody could go out there, swim 100 yards. And so you just want to incentivize everybody to believe that they can do the sport. It's not about competing like we're talking 100 miles. That's not the goal. The goal is to go ride 5 or 10, and you'll sleep better. That's truly how we look at cycling.
Isn't it truly, Kerry, when you do that? I mean, I competed in bodybuilding in an era where we're all friends. And you'd stand on a stage, and whoever won was the person that put the most work in. And then it gets to a point where people don't even want to talk to each other or share secrets. Or it's like, I always tell people it's just you and the guy looking back at you in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's the competition. Then all of a sudden it becomes something else. I'm going to do something that you're not, and I'm not going to tell you about it. And I think you guys have a community.
Well,
That's what I hear about.
Cycling is a social community. That's why people get mad at riders when they're riding in groups on the road, but they don't realize it's a very social atmosphere. And I'm a believer that it's just fun, and it creates a good environment. Now, there are groups of guys in Lycra that people don't like that block the roads. That's not what I was talking about. A good group of riders will never block a road, and they can still be social. And that's what the fun thing about riding bikes is. It's not much fun to ride by yourself, to be honest.
yeah. That's where you torture yourself. Is when you go by yourself. But if you ride with other people, you can push yourself, have fun, and be ready for the next ride.
Well, you almost feed off each other's energy.
Correct.
It's just that one thing that, hey, I'm going to catch up, I'm going to do this, or somebody's going to wait for somebody and do that.
Definitely.
I've heard several stories of you stopping and helping people with their bikes.
Oh,
you
yeah.
You carry the extra equipment.
No
and-
rider left behind.
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny because I'll go to Action Sports and there'll be a little card sometimes and a little note. Tell Adrian I said thank you. I've had that happen like 5 times, and it's just because I'm on the bike path. Somebody has a flat, and I'll fix it real quick and take off.
Which means the world to them.
And I don't even think about it. And they're like, "What's your name?" I'm all Adrian. And they're like, "All right." And then I'll go to Action Sports. It'll be right there.
I love that
Cool.
stuff. So then we have a picture of you guys, and I think this is you in the middle, Kerry.
Correct.
It's the USA, and it's a kind of a couple guys with you.
Some rock stars.
Yeah, those are two of the best riders that have ever come out of Kern County. So Jimmy Watkins is a local fireman, the big guy with the Hercules legs.
Yeah.
So he's a fire captain now, and he was 6th in the Olympics in 2012, and truly the most humble guy you've ever met.
I love that.
Yes.
You couldn't get him to talk about him and any of his accomplishments, unlike I will talk about anything. And the kid on the left is Tyler Williams, who technically was like Delano area, I think, raised, but he rode in Bakersfield to ride with us during his younger years. So in that picture, he's about, I'm going to say, no more than 20, 21. And now he just won this year, so that's from 2014, so that would be 7 years ago. So I'm going to say he's probably 27, 28. He has a young child now, first kid, and he just won the U.S. Pro Crit Championships.
Yes.
Fastest guy in the nation.
Wow.
So currently, Tyler's amazing. Jimmy is still, like, he would have won Worlds, and had they had the World Championship this year, he probably would have won. But because of COVID, it got canceled. So
Yeah.
Jimmy's still that good.
And Jimmy had a crazy story, too, which Kerry knows about. Like, when he went to the Olympics, right before it happened, they stole his equipment here in Bakersfield. They stole
that's
his
right.
bikes. Remember that?
Yeah.
And he still got it all together, showed up, and raced. And I was just like, I was blown away.
Yeah.
Some guys, they just throw in the towel and stuff like
Commitment.
that. And, yeah. But he still showed up.
Yep.
Yeah.
When it gets tough, the tough get going, don't they? And then the next picture, they got Adrian in the middle there. I think that's
Oh, yeah.
Adrian in the middle.
Yeah, the Bakersfield Triathlon. So the Bakersfield, what used to be called the Bud Light Triathlon, and it was put on back in the day when they didn't know go swim, bike, run. They used to do it out of order because they were so new to the sport. So the triathlon had just been invented, and so I kind of picked up the ball when Bud Light pulled out as a sponsor. The North of the River Department, our Sports and Rec Department, didn't have the funding to put it on. So I said, I'll put that thing on. So it became a lot of work, and I've done it all these years. Now, we've had the last couple of years canceled due to COVID, unfortunately. And one year we had to cancel it because of the algae in the water.
In the water.
I
But
remember that. There was yeah.
it's been a great event for the community.
It has.
Yeah, phenomenal.
I had a lot of friends that would do it.
Right, and you do a team division, so you could go do the run part, you could do the swim part, put a team together. That was just a lot of fun for everybody.
Yeah, that was my first triathlon.
Really?
When I did my first triathlon, it was at the Bakersfield one, and I almost drowned. I didn't know that when you take
The lake's
off, in
only
this-
6 feet deep.
Yeah, and I didn't know that
Did you
people
hit the
will
bottom?
swim over you. Like, so I lined up. I thought I was pretty good, and I lined up in the very front with all the fast swimmers, and we just took off running, and I was ahead. I was good until we hit the water. And as soon as we hit the water, I just felt bodies going over my head, and I was like, I couldn't get a breath. I thought I was going to drown for a second. And then finally, an elbow hits me in the face, and I kind of float to the top. And it was like, all right, these people are dangerous. They'll kill you to win this race. But it was at the Bakersfield Triathlon. That was the first event I had done. That was a triathlon. Yeah, it was
Wow.
crazy.
A lot of cool stuff. Now we have your daughter. I get to enjoy your journey with your daughter on Facebook.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, I have two girls, and so I get to see a father and a daughter, and she likes equestrian.
Yes,
Yeah.
so she was as a 1.5-year-old. She was transfixed with horses. She instantly just saw the big eyes and had to be around them. So I'd always find a way to give her a carrot or a sugar cube and go feed horses carefully, of course. And then she would ride every carousel ride, then Griffith Park pony rides, and then she was in. She just could not live without horses. So we'd go to Ethel's Corral Cafe and pet horses. We'd see a horse over a fence, I'd park, and we'd pet the horse. So
Wow.
Natural.
she became just a little transfixed with horses, and then now she's competitive, has been competitive since probably age 9. She did her first showings, and then by 11 she was competing in LA a lot. So she's had a good run.
Yep. And that isn't without Dad coming up and opening his wallet.
Oh, the money side is the unfortunate part of it, but you know what it really does? It's
Most expensive thing
well-
you can
well,
do is
I
a
mean,
horse race.
but you know, the good thing is it's very timed.
Well, you get to spend. You can never replace the time with
Never.
your daughter.
And then it teaches the responsibilities of how to
Yep.
care for an animal, how to be responsible for the animal, everything from even feeding and washing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to it
Because
that they learn.
because they're athletes too.
Oh yeah.
The horses are athletes.
Oh,
I mean, that's just. I mean, I used to raise paints, And, of course, they weren't a performing horse, but that's an athlete.
Yes.
The horses that she's on is athlete, and she's an athlete too. So I love that. And then the next one's your family. Got a picture?
So, there we go. So now we're talking about the 6 siblings. So brother Pat, far right. My brother Tim with the South shirt on. Me and we call this the crazy eye picture. So every time we were together, we would say, "Okay, let's do crazy eyes. Let's do big eyes. Let's do this." We staged these photos, and this was a crazy eye photo. So Mary, Jenny, and Michael. So I think this is from one of the funner families you will meet. Everybody is very extrovert.
Yes.
And nobody's at a loss for words.
And that's true, because I've met all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jenny's maybe the quietest, but she's still strong. She always has this line that says, "Don't confuse my kindness for weakness."
Yes. And she's a principal, right?
And she's tough. She's a tough one.
I live with the superintendent principal, so I know what that's like. Yep. Well, there again, I mean, then I always have fond memories of your sister, Mary.
Well, you guys spent a lot of time working out.
We did.
In the inception of bodybuilding, the Arnold years.
Well, it was even before that.
That's true.
And your sister Mary, and she worked out when working out for girls wasn't popular. And I always tell a story. I remember going into the gym one day, and I was talking to somebody. Steve Struthers was on last week. His girlfriend lifts, until she was looking at some things, and then she saw some records from a girl from Bakersfield, and saw Mary's record. Because I don't believe, and if you're watching, I mean, I don't believe Mary weighed more than 105 pounds when I knew her.
Correct.
And it was so funny because your sister could be ornery. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh yeah. We fought.
And so you would see Mary come into the gym, and usually and the guys back in the day in the late 70s were welcoming, especially at Strength and Health, gals. But Mary'd come in, and Mary was cute. Very cute.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the reasons I met you across from Norm's. It's like, who's that girl?
Who is that girl?
That was an experience you probably had a lot at your house.
That's true. We had a lot. My 2 sisters were both cute, so we had a lot of guys coming over.
So as Mary was there, she'd go in the gym, and she'd want a bench, and there'd be some guys taking up the bench area.
Guys like me.
So she'd go ask if she could work in, and they'd say sure, and they would want to pull some plates off. She goes, no need for that. Yeah. And she would get down, and she'd rep off a few reps that they were just struggling with, and they would leave. I would tell people, as Mary, if you're watching, you'd walk in the gym, I go, watch what happens in the next 5 minutes. She'll run these guys off.
First time I went to a gym with my sister, this is a funny story. It was a family vacation. We go to Tahoe. Mary says, "Hey, I want to go to the gym, and I just need to work out." So I said, "I'll go." And I used to work out a little bit with Norm, so I could throw a little bit of weight, but nothing like. I'm never.
She was world-class powerlifter.
So Mary walks in. She just sits on the bench, and she just takes the bar, which is 45 pounds, and just starts twisting it, and stretching with it, and she's like yawning. Then they drove 2 sets of 45s on. That's 135 pounds, and she goes ka-chink, 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 and she's warming up, and then she moves it around a little bit, without losing the plates. Sets it down. They throw some more plates on, and more plates. And now the whole gym is stopping. Nobody lifts in the whole gym anymore.
A girl about 11, 4'12".
I call her 4'12".
Yep, and so 105 pounds, and so she's doubling her body weight.
And she did. And that day she was doing. So she stopped with reps, doing sets of 3 at 225. Yeah. Now, she set 96 world records. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I knew that.
Brought in
96 world records.
And she still holds one to this day that hasn't been broken. And then all of them have slowly been broken, but they have allowed different things like lifting shirts.
Oh, yeah, compaction shirts.
The rules have changed a bit. But so she still holds the natural no-shirt record to this day, so nobody's going to probably beat it in her category anyway.
Well, it was just funny because you got to think about this. We're talking we're talking 70s, and people think now women are in the gym, but that wasn't back then. Yeah. And so Mary Ryan actually set some standards in Bakersfield.
And Jenny was probably still, Mary would even say the same thing. Jenny was probably the best athlete and the best mentally prepared athlete in our family. So Jenny was just like Bjorn Borg. Nothing could shake her. She could do 10-meter diving, hit her back. Just get up and go do another dive. Land on your back from 10 meters. I'm telling you, nobody does that. And goes back up and does it again. And not the back flop the second time. But I'm telling you, that's how tough Jenny was. So she did gymnastics and diving. world-class athlete.
I love that.
She had a
love
bad
that.
ankle, so the gymnastics kind of went south, and 80 Olympics were boycotted, so that was kind of one of her goals early on. That's the quality Ginny was. So.
Yep, that's just in your household.
Yeah.
And then we got another picture, and I think we have a special friend that you and I have in this picture. And tell about what's
wow.
the event?
So this is Race Across America, and this would have been 95. So the guy on the crutch is Norm Hoffman.
Norm Hoffman.
So Norm was by the way, he held the track 800 record, which they called it the half mile back then. He won the half mile, had the world record.
Was it the 67 Olympics he was supposed to go in when he hurt his leg?
Correct. Tore a hamstring.
Yep.
And then, so Norm that year was supposed to be on a Ram team, Race Across America. And unfortunately, he got hit by a car out on 7th Standard Road.
Was that the second time he got hit, or was
Probably
that?
the third time, honestly. So that was
That's so scary.
I
he'd
remember
been hit on the
I
bike
remember
a
the
couple
I remember the moped up by the college.
University, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
I remember getting the phone call on that one.
But he still was so tough. He says, "I'm going to go with you," and his bell got rung, so he was a little.
Oh, he
bit,
was.
So he's got a neck brace. It's not in that picture. He's got a crutch, and he's out there going, "Go, go, go!" He's just motivating us the whole way across country.
Wow.
That guy is tougher than nails.
Who's that rider? Do you remember that?
So-
Is that McCrae or McCraw?
That actually looks like Mike Ratcher in that photo.
Mike Ratcher.
And so on the left is Alton Sasso. So the saddest part about this photo for me, both Alton and Norm were hit by cars in Bakersfield, and both of them were killed by cars.
Oh well.
yeah.
So on that note, I'll just say this. The new taillights on bikes are so bright. Anybody that doesn't have a new technology taillight that flashes brightly, you should buy one if you're riding on the road. It'll just keep the cars on the cell phones off your tail. So Norm got hit by a kid, unfortunately, that wasn't paying attention, and Alton got hit by a semi-drunk driver out on Union. And had they had the flashing lights on, I really believe they would be alive. I really do. So regardless of other people's errors, your responsibility as a rider, truly, is to have the best safety equipment.
I agree
so
with you.
I think we own part of this.
Yeah.
I do.
Well, you know, and I love the fact that you bring up that safety part because it's a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, and I like that you provide that information and the knowledge, Kerry.
Thank
So
you.
if you're out there and you ride, you got to talk to this guy.
And thanks for sharing that memory, Kerry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Kerry put that on Facebook, so I pulled that photo, and I remember
Yeah.
that post, and it moved all of us in the cycling community to
Yeah.
remember that. You know,
Yeah.
I forgot about that picture, to be honest. Yeah.
And the next one is you, competitive.
dun dun dun.
So this was a staged photo, but it is a real photo.
Oh yeah, that's
so-
real speed right there, Kerry.
So that position can yield, 30 to 32 miles an hour on the flats if the roads are good and smooth. And that's a disc wheel bike. And it's even in that era, the advantage that my teams had in this race was that I had a shop and I knew all the cutting edge
Yes.
wheels and aerodynamics and special stuff. So everybody that ever got on one of my teams would always say, "We got the coolest stuff." And so
Get the best.
in that respect, I've only had 2 riders that have ever done the race more than once with me, and I've gone out there 4 times. So I've had a lot of different riders that I've tried to field, looking for the magic combination of who the best personalities are to feed.
Is that important? I was going to say that, Kerry. Is that
It's
important?
a team. It's a team. Even though you look at, like, I'm a type A and you think I'm all about me, but I'm more about you and making sure you succeed, because if I can keep you guys motivated, I know you're going to go fast. If I'm adversarial, you're going to say, the lights are off. Nobody's watching me right now. I'm going to slow down. Screw that guy. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's a team event. So it's also equally important to motivate your crew. So you have all these 18 people out there supporting you, like that picture showed, and they're helping you load onto your bike. They're helping you put your helmet on, your gear on. They hand you towels. They put your bike up. They take care of you.
Yeah.
So if you can motivate everybody and make it not about you, you've got a great teammate. So I've only invited 2 guys ever back on my team twice.
They must have been special
They are
characters.
special,
then.
yeah.
Well, and I think that should be
cool.
something, as if you're listening to the show and we're talking about bike riding and that kind of thing. But one of the major themes is that we need to really, truly love, Jesus said it, love others and make them more important than ourselves. So that's the
Absolutely.
principle that you used in your bike riding community. You're not looking for maybe the fastest guy, but maybe the guy that can motivate the other team members to be faster.
Absolutely.
I like that. I like that.
And I think for sure too, when you're on a team, the most key individual on the team is the one who can motivate the team. Like if you have people in your corner, you're going to go
Correct.
way further.
Yep.
every
So,
time.
I'm looking for motivational people that are just truly about the other person's success and nurturing. It's almost like like I've had teammates, if they are in a bad way, you'll say, hey, I'll take your turn. Just you take care of me when I'm down. So
Yeah.
you just kind of trade off when somebody's not doing great.
Yeah.
And this race will break you down because you're going 5 days with no sleep. So what happens is sleep deprivation can make you a little batty. Secondly,
Crazy.
it can make you emotional. So some guys, the strongest guys I've ever had in the world on my race team, have all broken down.
Yeah.
Because it's like they don't sleep for 4 days, and pretty soon they're crying about their missing their wives or their kids, and you just go, hey man, that's right, go back to sleep. Go back to sleep, you'll be fine. So it's kind of fun.
There's more involved than just getting on a bike and riding.
Oh.
And that's the cool thing I love about getting deeper in things that people are passionate about. And you've turned a love for sports that, like you said, fit what you loved and getting other people involved in it. And that's been you basically get to make a living at what you love to do and
Right.
help others become better at it.
And coincidentally, I'm going to go back to that picture with Norm and Alton, because those two guys, Alton sold Hostess and I think bread and different things to the grocery stores. And every grocery store that I've ever been to that knew Alton, they go, oh, that guy made me ride bikes. He got me into bicycling. That guy was the best guy ever.
That's awesome.
Everybody that ever knew Norm said the same thing. Oh, man, he was so about bikes. And when I opened my first store, Norm said, put bikes in, I'll sell a million bikes for you. I'm going to send everybody in to buy a bike, because he wanted everybody to enjoy a bicycle. So,
Well, Norm and I had a great relationship and love.
oh, I know.
And we loved working out. And I'll never forget one day, because I won't go into the details, but Norm said on a judging panel that I competed in when I was 19. He came up to me and goes, so you're from Bakersfield? I go, I am. But I'm in LA and I compete, but I'll come back here and compete. He goes, today's the day I quit bodybuilding. So I think I chased Norm into. I think he went into
Submission?
No, I think he went into hand gliding after that. No. Remember when he flew?
I did not.
Oh, you did not.
I have not.
Oh
ever
my gosh,
heard
he did
this
gliders.
story.
Oh yes, he did. He did
Yeah,
gliders.
I've never heard
crazy.
this
And,
story.
but he did whatever Norm did.
He had
He
to
was
do it well.
phenomenal at it too.
Yeah.
He had to work to a level. He was an incredible bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Incredible
I've seen
bodybuilder.
pictures, yeah.
Oh, incredible bodybuilder, and incredible athlete, track, and he found a love and home bike riding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So bicycling here again was the best thing about it. I go back to his story. Did you look at the flowers? Did you see that deer? Did you see that bird? I mean, he was just like, we're sweating back there, just barely being able to breathe and stay with him, and he's just, oh, look at that. So it was pretty fun.
It's funny in the days when you would work out with Norm. He was always intense.
Yeah.
He was. God love him. I mean, I love that man. Kerry, is there anything else you'd like to leave our audience with
Wow.
that we didn't cover?
First, thank you both for having me.
Oh, Kerry,
it's been a
I love
pleasure. I've
this.
known you both for a
Awesome.
long time, and you're both great motivational people for our community. I would just say, like he says, love the others more than you love yourself. So,
Amen. Amen.
Great.
So we're glad you tuned in today. If you have any questions, you can reach me at pastortom@vbf.org.
Or Adrian M at vbf.org.
How can they get a hold of you, Kerry? Or just go
Kerry at teamactionsports.com.
or better yet, they
You can email me. I'll answer them.
and you can walk into the store
That's right.
and ask
Yeah.
for Kerry
they're
Ryan.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hey,
definitely.
there's not a product out there that Kerry sells that I would not recommend highly. You got to go meet Kerry. There again, be a patron, get involved with the community, because I don't think you get this anywhere else. You can go and buy a product and get involved with great people from the top down, and
Yeah.
have fun, lose weight, get in better shape.
Yeah. And
Beautiful.
sleep better.
Yes,
Yes.
much better.
Nobody
Way
sleeps
better.
well.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Athletics make you sleep
That's
well.
true.
Yeah.
So there again, well, you guys, thank you for tuning in. It's kind of a sign off for a lunch break. God bless. See you next week.
See ya.